Good evening, it's Rob Moore here from Progressive Property. Really excited to be spending this 3-hour web seminar with you on 7-step joint venture and finance raising blueprint, including where to specifically find the JV partners and how to close the deals and get the money. Now, first things first before we start, please do ask me any questions at any time throughout the webinar. I will answer them. I'm sure you probably know why you're on this web event, but a lot of people don't know why they would want to even access joint venture funds in the first place, or if they do know that they want it, they don't really know the full extent of how they can leverage and benefit from joint ventures. So first things first, let's be honest, in the economy that we're in the climate that we're in, people have run out of money, whether it's money to spend or money to invest. But of course, there are so many deals out there right now, which if you come on any of our other web events or if you stay in the Progressive community, you'll find out and learn about those. But because there are so many deals at low asset prices and high incomes and high yields with low cost of finance right now, people don't want to lose the opportunity to grow their portfolio in this climate. But at the same time, the other side of the coin is a lot of people just don't have the money. If you ever run out of your own deposits, joint ventures is probably the best way of you moving forward in property. Now, one thing I'll tell you, and I'm looking through the attendee list here, and we've got some very wealthy people on this webinar, and I don't, whether you're Lord Sugar or Lord Lucan, when you invest in property, there comes a day where unless you have joint venture and creative strategies, you run out of money. Every human being only has a certain amount of deposits, and they may get stuck in deals. You might have the money now, but 3 or 4 or 5 deals later, your money's stuck, finance changes. So even if you're wealthy, you're going to run out of investable money, and joint ventures means you never run out of investable money. Perhaps you like my business partner, Mark Homer. Now, it's not the guy on the screen there. He's another business partner, Peter. But if you're anything like my business partner, Mark Homer, who's world-renowned for being pretty tight and pretty careful with his money, even when he has had 7 or 8 figures to invest, he hasn't wanted to use his own. And maybe you just like the idea of sharing some of your profits with someone, but not risking your own capital. Hey, that's your choice. It's not right or wrong. It's your choice. So that's another reason why you probably want to really consider joint ventures, not just to come on a web event and think, yeah, this is a nice strategy, to physically do it, take action on it. Because let me tell you this, while mortgage finance is difficult, while things are as they are, most people aren't growing their businesses. The masses are struggling, but the creative, entrepreneurial investors are taking a lot of this money and really running with it. And there are other reasons too. Perhaps you like the idea of leverage. The best thing about property is you get to earn on the full value of the property, but it's not the full value of your money that you've put in. And at the moment, you use a JV partner's money, and that's none of your own money in a deal. That's 100% leverage. Inflation is eroding debt and eroding mortgages and eroding money you borrow from JV partners. So you really can leverage both ways, on inflation and on growth and on asset value. And you don't get always leverage when you're using your own money or you're not leveraging joint ventures. It completely reduces your financial risk. Now, what I'm not saying here is borrowing money from people and not banks means you've got no risk and you don't have to take that seriously, and because it's from a person you won't get repossessed and you don't have responsibilities. I'm not saying that. I know a lot of people in the progressive community who joint venture with their family and friends, and they take it more seriously than if it was a bank or a mortgage. So it's not about taking it less seriously, but imagine if you have a few challenges with your investment with a bank. What's going to happen? Are you going to be able to talk to someone? No. Are they just going to repossess you or, call the loan in? Well, they could. I've got people who are attending this webinar this evening that have commercial property. A couple of good friends of mine and Mark who own a lot of commercial shopping centres across the country. When the crash happened in 2007/8, they called in the loans to the tune of billions with a B, of pounds. Now, that doesn't often happen in residential property. And if you're borrowing from private investors, JV partners, they're not going to be doing that, whereas banks might. So it does, if you're careful and smart, reduce your financial risk, which I know for some safe playing investors is very important. I've still got people checking in. Just want to say good evening to Chris. How are you doing? Good evening to Luvas. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. I know there are many new people I haven't met. Good evening to Ian. Good evening to Craig. Good evening to Andrew. So thank you for joining us. We've got people joining all the time. Just to remind you, any questions at any point, I can see some of them stacking up. Once we get into the nuts and bolts, you're going to get more meat per minute in this. Once we get rolling, I'll take some questions later on. Banks aren't lending right now, you know that. If you're an experienced investor, you've got a lot of properties, you're penalised by the banks now, you've got too many. But if you haven't got any experience investing, you're also penalised. If you're not 6'3", 14 stone 6, 34-inch waist, with 12-inch fingers, and your name's not John Smith, then you're not getting a mortgage either. It's really difficult to get finance. You have to earn a certain amount, be of a certain demographic, but not too professional, but not too amateur, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And it's really difficult to get. And you could buy the properties and have them all lined up, and the mortgage company pulls it, or the valuation gets, scuppered and all these things, and all of a sudden the deals, they fall out of bed. And you really don't want that to happen, especially if you're using other people's money in joint venturing. Even more valuable than the money, in my humble experience, is the knowledge, experience that you gain from joint venturing with other people. Now, I have around about £25 million worth of joint ventures in business and property. And I don't say that to brag, look at me and how much money I've made. I've done some joint ventures that have gone wrong, and I will share that experience with you too, because I've probably learned as much, if not more, from that as I have the successful ones. But I have done a lot of joint ventures now, and I have learned a lot. And if I would make the choice between what's more valuable, the knowledge I've gained from all these JVs or the money that it's pulled in, and the money's good, I would certainly say that the experience, the contact base, the leverage of people, the how-to, that's as valuable, if not more valuable than the money, because that's what makes the money. It recession-proofs you, and I think this is really, really important. The thing about borrowing money is when you borrow it from a bank and the markets change, your deal can change. If you have a variable rate and interest rates go up, you could be exposed. Commercial lenders have changed the terms of their deal with people before, and you can be at risk. But if you know that you can always tap into finance, you can raise money from private investors, angels, venture capitalists, family, friends, you name it. It doesn't matter what happens to the economy. It doesn't matter what happens to the masses. It doesn't matter what happens with the banks, the mortgages. It doesn't matter what happens with Lehman Brothers or Northern Rock or whatever. You're always going to have strategies to thrive while others are just trying to survive. And I think that's a really important part of business. It gives you that steel. It gives you that invincibility. It gives you that confidence. It gives you that belief that you can make money when, the world is telling you that you shouldn't be able to. And you get to leverage. You get to create more with less. And I'm talking about more money with less money. I'm talking about more money with less time. I'm talking about more money with less experience in certain areas. I'm talking about more money with less of your own contacts, but more of other people's contacts. So you're talking about multiple benefits here from doing joint ventures. Okay, so hopefully you all know the strong reasons why, and in a few minutes I'm really looking forward to getting involved with you, getting into the nuts and bolts. I've had a question here from John. Who are angels? Great question. Business angels or angel investors are professional investors who lend money to businesses, entrepreneurs, professionally. So if you've gone on Dragon's Den, then the dragons, they are also angels. Dragons, angels, kind of similar thing. They're, right now in the world, and by the way, this is very detailed and specific. You'll want to write this down if you can, anywhere that you are. The private investors, the business angels, the dragons, but not necessarily the dragons that are on TV like Duncan or Peter, but, the real life dragons, they are the new banks. They're the banks of tomorrow. The amount of money that the physical, larger corporations and, governments and banks and, the system, the amount of money that they're lending is less, much less than it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Now, people still need to borrow money. People still need to get returns on their money. People with cash still need to make money on their money. So people are turning to private finance. So on the one hand, people like you're looking to do joint ventures. On the other hand, people are looking to lend their money into people like you because the banks aren't. The banks have almost created space. They've backed off. And so people with money, I've got as many people on this webinar who are looking to get a return on their money as people who are looking to access that money. So it's from both ends. So don't just think if you're the person that wants the money that everyone wants the money, and don't just think if you're the person that needs a better return on your money that there aren't people to help you. Okay, I've had a question here. Is JV interest-free? Wouldn't that be great? Now, the reason I laugh is just because it's actually, I think, a smarter question than some of us might have thought. Because if you're not very creative, you're going to think, well, you've got to pay interest on a loan. A joint venture is a loan, and, it's 10%, 12%, 15%. But it's not always. If you cut people into the deals, if you give them a share of equity, if you make them a stakeholder in the business, if you give them what's called NM, which is non-monetary value, they may not necessarily want interest on the money. Now, later on in the webinar, we will be going through those structures and whether they want a return on the money or whether they want a share of the property. Because actually it's different. And I do, forgive me if I'm going a bit too deep too soon. If I'm too deep too soon, or if you want me to hurry up, just let me know. But some people, they've got 100 grand, they want 8% a year on it, 6% a year, 10% a year, whatever. That's what they want. Whether it's in property or peanuts, it doesn't matter. I just want my return. So their loan would not be interest-free. But some people, like your family or friends or non-sophisticated investors, they might not want 8% on their 100 grand, because that's 8 grand a year. They might want 30 or 50% of the value of the portfolio, which in the long term is going to make them a lot more money. So there are a lot of different ways of structuring the joint venture, and I will be sharing those with you. I don't know how much detail I can get onto in that specific thing, because we only have, best part of 2.5, 3 hours. But I'll take any questions, and what doesn't get answered now, you'll get an opportunity to continue to learn, and do moving forward. I mean, this is probably just the beginning for you in terms of your joint venturing. I don't want to overwhelm you, but I want to give you the right level of information. Okay, right. I've had a question. Are there going to be any breaks in the next 3 hours? Obviously, so you don't know me that well. I could. The Duracell Bunny. I probably will give you a break or two if you require it, maybe sort of for 5 minutes here and there. I want to give you as much as I can in the time. I think that's really important. But yeah, we'll probably take just a quick couple of minute water and toilet breaks. But good question. Thank you for it. Okay, so at the end of this training, I'm going to give you the single secret weapon. A secret weapon that I paid over £10,000 for and flew over to America for a few years ago. What I believe to be the most powerful thing in joint ventures and raising finance and getting the money and structuring the deals and selling to the partner, because make no mistake, we're selling. If you want to raise money, you've got to sell. And if you're scared of selling, well, in an hour you're going to get strategies that will help you, but you are selling, even if it's just yourself. So the single most important thing I've ever learned in £25 million worth of joint ventures that I've done over the last 6 years, I'm going to be revealing to you. People have paid thousands for this, and I don't say that flippantly, but I am going to be revealing that to you towards the end of the webinar. I'm revealing it at the end because I want to save the best till last, and I want you to stay on for that. It's a question that the person who taught me it was convinced it's worth at least $20 million. I would say I've invested about £15,000 in total to get it, and I would say it's probably helped me make at least 5 of those £25 million in the joint ventures. So it's difficult, isn't it, to put a tangible number on things like that. To be honest, I'm giving you an educated guess there. But even if it was only half that, it's worth a lot of money to you. It's very powerful and very simple. And the last piece of detailed content I'm going to share with you is where and how, the how of, where and how to meet more millionaires per square foot than anywhere else, even Mark Homer's birthday party, even Lord Sugar's wedding. You know, I'm going to show you a place and tell you how to tap into the money where you'll meet more millionaires per square foot, and that's going to be revealed at the end of this training. You do not want to miss that for anything. Okay, so what is this joint venture blueprint? What is the progressive blueprint? So some of you probably don't know much about me. Those of you on the training that know us, in a minute, if with your permission, I'm just going to share for a couple of minutes for the benefit of everybody else, you know, how we develop this blueprint. And I'm going to leave this on the screen for you for a couple of minutes. It's very important that it's not just the nuts and bolts and details and specifics of this blueprint, but it's the blueprint itself. So imagine you're with me. Maybe you're not wearing a stripy crazy shirt like that, but imagine you're with me 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago, when money's just drying up for people. Investors can't get their hands on enough cash. People who have previously been successful at doing deals have got deals, but they can't finance them anymore. The whole market has a problem. You know, Progressive Property for at least 4 years have been the leading UK-specific property training company. So it's our duty to find new strategies, to help people get solutions. One of our brand values of the 4 is innovative. So I have a big problem. I have a personal problem that, you know, I want to buy more properties. You know, we all have limited funds. I have a challenge that all the people that I'm training, they know how to find the deals, they know how to get big discounts, they know how to put cash flow and equity and you know, on paper, but until they can actually finance all the deals, then it's only paper. So I sat down with Mark and said, Mark, we need to find a new way of helping people get more money faster, cutting deals. So we started mapping this blueprint that you can see there. And it took us about 9 months. And really what this blueprint is us reverse engineering over the last 6 years between us, 16 years combined, our experience in property. Yeah, I read about 60 books a year. When I created this blueprint, actually I read 9 or 10 books specifically on raising money. I've got lots of friends who are business angels and private investors, and we took all of this stuff together, and a lot of the mistakes, you know, the big mistakes that we made in the early days, and we reverse engineered it back. We imagined what could we do and help people with if we were starting again, and this is how this blueprint came about. And it's now been trademarked into this. So this is the Progressive Property Be Your Own Bank Joint Venture Blueprint.